So, welcome to the Booked and Brewed Book Club, the podcast where we enjoy our favorite brews and talk about our favorite books. I'm Alex.
And I'm Melina, and I'm so glad you want to be here today to talk about books.
And I'm Amanda.
Yes, our special guest for this week's podcast and last week's podcast. We are now, last week we talked about ACOTAR, the first three books of ACOTAR. Now we're really going to deep dive into the series as a whole, as well as A Court of Silver Flames. So that being said, before we jump into talking about the book, what is everyone's current read and their brew that they're drinking today?
I'm currently reading Keeping 13, and I absolutely love it. And I'm drinking a blue raspberry refresher, the berry refresher from Starbucks.
Ooh, love that. That sounds
Now I want Starbucks.
good.
I am currently reading the new Taylor Jenkins Reid book, Atmosphere. Very, very exciting. And then my brew for today is the sparkling apple cider vinegar, elderberry and pomegranate drink from Trader Joe's.
Ooh, I feel like apple cider vinegar. I've taken shots of apple cider vinegar like a psycho when like that health thing was going around,
Sure, sure.
and it's disgusting. Like I put it as a salad dressing. I have no clue why you're drinking it as a drink.
But yeah, I don't know. I love elderberry. I picked it up and it kind of just tastes like kombucha. So I had kombucha last week. I figured I'd spice it up with a kombucha adjacent today.
Right.
Um, I don't know. It's weird, but I've also got my boyfriend hooked on it. So,
There you go.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if he likes it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I almost wish he didn't because he steals them. So,
I know that's how I feel. I got Joe and I got into Poppy. Like
mm,
and so now we buy it from Sam's Club every time we go. And he drinks like 90% of it and only leaves me like three cans. And I'm
and the
like,
worst flavor.
seriously? How much soda do you drink in a day?
Yeah,
Healthy
exactly.
soda, but seriously, you can't leave me more than three cans.
Criminal. Absolutely criminal. So,
I
do you have
love
coffee
living with a
today?
boy. Something to look forward to, Melina.
So, do you have poppy today, Alex? What's your book and brew?
Okay, so guys, I changed it up. I'm really proud of myself.
Snaps.
So I just finished The Song of Achilles, by Madeline Miller. Such a good book. I was really shocked how much I enjoyed it, but I'm biased. I love Greek mythology, so it kind of fell on that. And then my brew for today, it is a brown sugar shaken espresso with almond milk from Starbucks. Did I go and pick this up about 30 minutes ago before we filmed this? 100%, just so I didn't have green tea again. 100%.
Well, love that. The shaken espressos are amazing. This
My
does feel a bit
favorite.
collusion, though. I mean, where was you gotta let a girl know when you're getting Starbucks? I'll run out and grab my own shaken espresso.
I
Doing
know. Apparently, you were the only one that didn't get the Starbucks kick, but it's
Yeah, come on.
it. So awkward.
it's fine. You'll catch on soon enough. Um,
Yeah.
okay, well, fab. So I guess we can just jump straight into A Court of Silver Flames. Yeah, I've read this a while ago, and then I decided to just kind of review it. Again, went through like a chapter by chapter summary that I found online of it. Um, or Amanda actually found it for us, I should say. And I remember why I don't like this book.
Amazing. Amazing.
It was definitely not a favorite of mine. I wish she just kind of ended it after the first three books.
Yeah.
But
Do you want to give a recap? Like a small abridged recap version?
yeah, I'll give a quick summary for those of you who haven't read it in a while. And then, anyone who has read it, well, you kind of know what happens. But basically, Nesta, the story is from Nesta's point of view. So it kind of takes place after Aka War, where we find out that Farah is pregnant. Nesta is having some drinking issues, a lot of sex, a lot of just like she's kind of spiraling. So they decide to move her into the House of Wind, start training with Cassian. She kind of really starts to fully develop her relationship with Cassian. She really starts to um, learn more about herself and really push herself outside of her boundaries. She really has this self-loathing that you don't really hear about. You hear she's all this anger, but you find out that underneath all that anger, she really, really, really hates herself. She has a lot of self-hatred, to the point she doesn't feel like she deserves the mating bond between her and Cassian. So there's always this kind of this back and forth between them about like, oh, it's just sex, but they actually like each other and this, that, and the other thing. She ends up forming really good friendships. One with a priestess that works in the House of Wind, and another one, she is an Illyrian. She meets her when they go to Windhaven. She's a store owner. And then they start training together. They essentially start training as Valkyries, which were a female warrior group that Cassian used to fight alongside with during battles like hundreds of years ago. And they want to bring that back to really empower the women. So they start training, they get more and more priestesses to start joining. And then all during this time, right now, Nesta has this insane ability that she took from the cauldron. She has this power that kind of leads her down this path of finding the dead trove, which are these objects that the cauldron made. So they go on a wild goose hunt to go and find the dead trove. And essentially, they're trying to get it before one of the mortal queens who is working with a dark lord on the continent, um, in order so that the queen can get her youth back and, the dark lord can kind of take over the world again. And so they're doing all of this. Then they end up going into this blood rite, which is a rite of passage for the Illyrians, where essentially they are thrown into the wilderness for about a week. And then they have to basically climb a mountain and get to the top. And then they get to the top of the mountain. Then they're transported and they win. The issue is that they have no weapons, no powers, nothing, and they have to fight all these people that are trying to kill them. So the girls are thrown into this. They're battling once they're towards the top of the mountain, they end up finding Brylan, which is the mortal queen. She brings Cassian. Cassian's under her spell, because she has the crown, which is one of the objects in the dead trove. Cassian tries to kill her. He ends up kind of not killing her. And then Nesta, with her full power, basically takes down Brylan, kills her. And that's kind of where it ends. They're transported back. They find out that Farah is having the baby. The baby comes out dead. Farah's dying. Farah and Reese have a death pact. So if one of them dies, they both die. Really stupid, but they have it. And Farah's dying. So now Reese is dying, becomes this whole thing. And Nesta uses the Dread Trove to basically save all three of them, brings the baby back to life, saves Farah. And then they end up being like, I love you. They end up welcoming her again because they had, again, this animosity at the beginning of the book. They come full circle. Now they all love her again. And then the book ends with Nesta, Elaine, Farah, and Nyx all going to see their father's grave. And it's the first time that Nesta is really able to accept her father's death. But yeah, that basically is the summary of it. Did I miss anything? Do you guys think I missed anything? I felt like I covered a lot.
No, that was perfect because it was a thick book too. The fact that the biggest book in this series is dedicated to Nesta, hate it.
I think a lot of it though is just sex scenes,
which is why it's up there with one of my favorites. Do you think it can be true? Holding space.
Fair enough. Of like, what are your guys' feelings on the book?
I'll start. I it was a waste of space. A lot of trees died, and they shouldn't have.
That's very accurate.
Distinct, accurate, love it.
Yeah. I think that it was just a money grab. It felt like the plot to it, as I was rereading the summary, it kind of reminded me how convenient a lot of the plot was.
Mhm.
Like how they aren't supposed to have any powers when they're on the mountain during the blood rite, and then all of a sudden now, like Nesta's able to get her powers back, her powers, and kill Brylan and take Cassian out from under the crown's curse, and how convenient it was that she got there just in time to save her sister and Reese and the baby. And I just think there was a lot of convenience that it just didn't feel like.
I'm still holding out that maybe there's kind of a larger plot she's working towards because there's some like weird caveats, right, in her finished series where you follow a different character and it all kind of somehow ties back into the plot. And I think she did such a good job of that when writing Throne of Glass. So I'm holding out that maybe that's the case. It's so unfortunate that the book she's had the longest publishing pause after is this one because it kind of just seems so unfinished. To your point, it's so convenient. I think it would have made more sense strategically to maybe stop after the fourth book, which is technically a long length novella, kind of end it there, let people sit with it, and then plot out the next three, two or three books, right? The fact that it kind of ends there, it's such a weird tangent from the core trilogy storyline with like the big bad villain and like the mythology is different. It just feels separate. So I'm curious how she's going to pull it back, hopefully, and tie it back into the main series.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That I just, it felt like also too, it kind of set up the third book of Crescent City as well for like, again, those like
I
spoiler.
haven't, I haven't read it. So don't spoil it for me.
But yeah, like I think like it, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I think she's trying really hard to paint a bigger picture between all of her three series and how they come together.
Yeah.
And I think that may be why it's taking her so long. But again, I personally, I like that this book was Nesta's redemption arc, but I did not love that it felt like it was just filling in gaps and like it was made convenient.
Mhm.
Like some of it didn't make sense. Like again, like the whole part where Reese like doesn't tell Farah that she could die through the pregnancy and thus he could die from the pregnancy from giving birth, and the fact that it could harm the baby if she were to change into her Illyrian form, but if she were to just stay the way she is, both of them would die. All three of them would die anyway. Like that didn't make sense to me at all.
Hmm.
And how like okay, C-sections, never work well, but like again, like it's interesting how she cherry picks like when they're an exception to the rule and then when they follow the rule.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was my thought process.
Yeah. I did like though, I'm always a sucker for happy endings. So I did like the happy ending that that little family got. So I was happy in that respect, but in terms of I think writing strength or like plotting strength for the story, it was a bit cookie cutter. Again, I loved it because I love when romance books or books kind of fill that hole. Like I want a happily ever after. It's one of my love hate relationships with romanticities because you don't get that till the end of the series, and that's so hard fought. But I was personally happy just to see that little ending. Um, what did you guys think of the book point of view being from Nesta? Like, do you think that added to the story or like detracted from the story?
I think that gave us good insight into Nesta. And it was kind of, like almost 1,000 pages of a redemption for Nesta. I don't know about you guys. I never had any strong feelings towards her. I knew like there's obviously something going on with her, like there's more to her, but I didn't feel the need to have an entire book dedicated to her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and the only reason I really liked it wasn't because of the plot, because I thought the like whole fantasy plot with the Dread Trove and whatever, I thought that was so bad. Like it was just I didn't care. I
Yeah.
thought, but I really liked the character building and rooting for Nesta and Cassian to finally like have their happily ever after.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. I think I like that it was from Nesta's point of view, and I liked it gave us a bigger insight into her and like who she was as a person. And I think to some degree I could relate to her in some way. Like how like, sometimes you're not you have this like you feel like you don't deserve something, and so you automatically just rule it out.
Mhm.
Right. Or, you kind of cut yourself off from like other people and things because you feel like you've done something wrong and you don't deserve it. And you kind of hide that with like, I think that's a very human way of reacting to things. Um, so I really like that we kind of got in her head and understood it a little bit better. What I didn't love, so I didn't like her in the first three books, understood her in this book, really liked the redemption, and really appreciated that we could kind of see into her head. I'm hoping we get this for Tamlin. That's just a side note. But what bothered me, I think, the most about Nesta is you never really got a full understanding about like why she acted the way she did when they were all starving and in the cottage.
Mhm.
I think like I can understand why she like held so much hate towards her dad, why she like has so much like self-hatred towards like all these different things, but I don't think it doesn't give her context on like why she did what she did in the past.
Mhm.
And kind of just how she's feeling about it currently and like how she like again redeems herself from it. But I again like I would love to know why she felt that Farah should be the one to go and like take care of the whole family when she was the youngest.
Mhm. Yeah, that's my biggest issue, I think, with Nesta as a character. And I think we covered it last episode. But I feel S.J. Maas is so good with character building. Like you really get into the head of these characters she has, where they're portrayed in such a light where the reader, I think, feels that. So she did such a good job in the first three books of really, especially the first, of really driving home that kind of disgust for the other sisters because it was from Feyre's perspective. But as an oldest sister myself, I could never fully get behind or understand or root for Nesta because I could never put myself in that mindset and have my little siblings take that burden. And it just seems so victimy. And, she did get a redemption arc here. It's definitely something we can dive into. I just don't know if it was enough. Like, I like her as a character now, I guess. She's still kind of low. I'd rather would have gotten the Inner Circle, book rather than this one.
Agreed. I think I also like though that this kind of bridged the gap of like the cauldron.
Mm.
Getting thrown into the cauldron and her relationship with the cauldron and kind of get a better understanding of her powers, which I liked.
Mhm.
That's why I'm also hoping that maybe the next book is about Elaine to see the other side of it too. Like what's Elaine's relationship with becoming Fae and this aspect of it. I do wish it kind of followed the same structure as Throne of Glass, where you didn't necessarily get a full book on a character. You got a couple chapters from their point of view, and then it would flip back to it kind of flip-flopped. I would
Yeah.
have liked that a little bit more because then you can kind of get like other um other characters' perspective on events.
Hmm. I agree.
Who knows? Maybe she'll do it in her upcoming books.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I see the way, right? And I keep going back to it. I see the way that she really plotted out Throne of Glass well. So she has such a skill with high fantasy that I'm really holding space for both Crescent City, which I haven't read, but I've heard mixed things with, and this one that's largely, um, a favorite of the readers. That she'll pull it together somehow. I'm just super curious to know how. So
Yeah, definitely. So do you think that she owed Farah and the inner circle an apology for how she acted?
Yes.
probably Dick.
Yeah. I mean, I could see her side of it, but I do think she needed to get the apology.
Yeah.
I can see her side of it, but I can't see not at least acknowledging that that behavior is not good for other people
Yeah.
and like actually accepting that, oh, I'm doing something that's hurting the people around me, so I should acknowledge that.
Yeah,
I understand why, but I don't think that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
I agree. And she never, I feel, tried to share her side. Like, hey, this is why I'm reacting. Like, you got that inner monologue. So as a reader, it was helpful. But her communication issues are, communication strategy still has a long ways to go even after this book, I
Mhm.
feel.
Oh, 100%. I think she could definitely improve on her communication skills, but you know, we all have poor communication skills sometimes. So it is what it is. It happens. But I really liked how this book kind of also paralleled loosely Farrah's story in a way, in the fact that she kind of has her own set of trials that she goes through that Farrah did. She was turned Fae, and so she's kind of, you know, coming to terms with being Fae. So I think, not saying that her and Farrah have identical healing journeys in this process, but I do think that they do kind of follow a similar path, especially like finding a mate, kind of not necessarily rejecting it at first, but getting angry and frustrated and feeling like kind of pushing it away for a little bit and then coming back to it. Um, and then their growth as like warriors too, I think is kind of similar. What do you guys agree with that? You guys think it's different?
Mm.
I can see the parallels. I think this book, in addition to like, I didn't even draw, I think the line between the trials versus Feyre's trials. So that's pretty clever.
Mhm.
And now that you call it out, I'm like, oh, duh, it's so obvious. Um, I do think this book, while it paralleled Feyre's, I think focused on different aspects of relationships. So I think Feyre's was like the quick relationship with Tamlin, and then the trials, but then the longer kind of draw out of Reese and being a mate. And this one was kind of a quick mating, but then the more long drawn out kind of journey of female friendship with the Valkyries rather than just solely having it be Cassian's relationship. So I think in that way they're different in the way that it's paralleled, but it still kind of follows that same line or trajectory, I think. Which was nice to see. Like I'm a romance lover at heart. I love my smut, so I loved the sex scenes and whatever. I loved the grand romance of the first book. But I did think it was nice and a bit refreshing to have that female friendship focus.
Okay, couple questions. Did, well, so first, how do you guys feel about Emery? And second, was them winning the blood right just a little too convenient?
Yes. So I do like Emery. Um, I also do think that it was very convenient to win the blood right as well.
Hmm.
I agree.
I personally, I don't know why, but Emery just pisses me off.
Why?
I I have no idea. She just pisses me off. Like I don't know. Something about her. Um, so anytime Emery came up, I was like, I have no reason, like no good reason, but I just really do not like her. And then
Remind remind me who she is, because I remember she's part of the trio or whatever. But
she's the Illyrian.
oh, okay,
Hmm.
okay, she's
Yeah, and Gwen
forgettable.
is the priestess.
Yeah, okay,
I
okay.
I liked Emery. I don't know. I also really loved Gwen. Like, I think they both were great assets to Nesta and really
Hmm.
helping Nesta on her healing journey because they all had some really messed up backstories that I think really helped Nesta kind of grow and like be resilient in her healing journey. Um, and I liked that she also had her own set of friends, like she found her own set of friends versus like being
Hmm.
forced into the inner circle, which I felt like Farah was doing very much when after they became Elaine and Nesta became Faye. It felt that Farah was just kind of forcing them to just be part of the circle, be part of my inner circle, and like join my friend group. And I like that Nesta ended up finding Gwen and Emery and creating her own bonds and her own friendships with them that really helped her to grow as a character and heal that I just don't think she ever would have gotten with more because I think or even like Azriel and them like I just think she would resent Farah because she just feels like she's living in Farah's world at this point.
Hmm.
Mhm. Do we think our opinion of the book would have changed if Nesta ended up in another court and we got to learn about that other court?
That would have been so nice, honestly.
Right? I'm desperate for that. I think we talked about it before. The other courts are so interesting and I want to learn so much more about them. And I feel S.J. Maas is taking Elaine's story in one of two directions. It's one, she ends up at the Autumn Court, right, with her mate, or she somehow ends up with Azriel and stays at the Night Court. I feel it would just be so cool, if somehow Nesta ended up at the Summer Court, right, or the Winter Court, and you get to see that the way they operate, how it's different from the Night Court.
You know, I've seen a theory that Eris is actually Nesta's mate, and that the cauldron was like faking the mating bond or something.
I did
So
see this.
I actually think that's so interesting, and I'm kind of rooting for that because I want to get to know more about the Autumn Court and like Eris, and like we know that there's something like we don't, we don't know what's up with him,
Right.
and there's more to him, and I really want to get some more of his backstory and
Mhm.
hints at like knowing stuff about more,
Right.
and we don't know what that is, and I'm so curious there. I hope we get more of his story.
Yes, I hope so too. He kept saying in the book, "Oh, you need to talk to more about her side. You need
Mm.
to like I didn't leave her there. I'm not this bad person that you guys think I
Yeah,
am."
like I did it for her, like for her sake.
Right. You guys like this isn't my story to tell. You need to talk to more.
Hmm.
More needs and more hasn't opened up about it. That leads me to
Yeah.
believe that maybe more might be the betrayal because she's hiding something.
We need more of more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we chatted about more and we can go back to her, but before we get too far down the rabbit hole of more, I want to circle back to Eris and the Autumn Court. I think we get such good hints of him as a character, and he's such a complexly written character. I almost wish this book was about him, whoever his mate is. I just want to know so much. Did you guys feel the same with Eris in the Autumn Court? I know we briefly touched on it, but
Yeah. I definitely like I would have loved to have seen more about him and learned more. And I felt that there is a bigger story to him.
mm,
And maybe he does have to really make himself out to be the bad guy in order to stay his dad's favorite, and end up being the High Lord.
mm.
Um, but I do think we do see some redeeming qualities in him. throughout the series, and that I think there's one part where he talks about like Lucian and how he helped Lucian when he was like getting out of the Autumn Court. And I think he is trying to play that role of being the good guy under a villain
So
mask.
Mhm.
can we compare that to how Reese comes off
Yeah.
and how
Yes.
like the parallels in that?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's do
Melina, you read my mind. I was like, what Reese
it.
under the mountain?
I just feel like I I haven't really formed my thoughts if someone else has something to say.
It was more throwing it out to the board.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know if it's. I feel it can't be that obvious, but maybe because we just saw that play out with Reese, it is.
Mhm.
But I mean, this is why I love a good romance or romantasy. The darker and more disturbed, and on the onset, the villain they seem, the more there's a squishy heart of gold
Mhm.
underneath. So I feel it's so performative, and I think the way it's written is kind of obvious that it's a bit performative, or at least, hey, he's an asshole, right? And he is his father's favorite, and he has this reputation just like Reese did. But I think instead of seeing the good in him unfold over 3 books like we did Reese, we see snippets of like humanity, I think, in some of the actions that we receive secondhand, which feeds the fire. I just want to know more about the dynamic, the politics of the Autumn Court. It's so fascinating.
100%. I do think that, I don't know, I do think that honestly, like SGM probably copy and pasted, having this like character that's out to be the bad guy who actually underneath is really the good guy. Um, I think that his parallels with Reese, we just don't know enough about Aries to really, I think, be on point and be like, this is a great example of him being just like Reese. I think there's a potential for him to be like Reese. And again, we're speculating that he's a good guy. We don't really know his ulterior motives. The way she's writing it makes it seem like, oh, he does have some good qualities to him,
Mhm.
but we really don't. Maybe he's just playing us. She's
Right.
getting him to play us, and he's actually pretending to get along with these characters and try to side with them, maybe to help for his personal game in
Mhm.
the Autumn Court. Like we don't really have his agenda and understanding, and we don't have a character close enough to him to really get an understanding of his world. But I could see that there is like a lot of parallelism between him and Reese, and maybe he is like wearing this villain mask as a way to protect himself and to do good. And that's the only way he really knows on how to say help his court, and help this other these other characters who are really trying to save the world essentially. I just we need more about all these other characters.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. Maybe in the future too, because I would love to do this with you guys, is maybe we can talk about compare, we can do a Throne of Glass, you know, tell all episode, and then maybe compare the two books, the two series, because I would love to really deep dive into the comparisons on this. I have a really lot of thoughts on it. Um, Especially as we're talking more about these characters in ACOTAR. I just feel like there needs to be more, and I'm not getting enough.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be such a good idea because Throne of Glass is the only completed playbook, right? Like I feel you get used to an author's writing style, the types of twists and turns that they layer into a story. The more you read and the more that they write, and because Throne of Glass is finished, but her other 2 series are still unfinished, I feel the only thing you can really do is compare to Throne of Glass and say, like, okay, well, she did this here. We could see it play out here, you know?
Yeah. do you guys think that, how do you think that Cassian really supported Nesta in her healing journey compared to Tamlin or Reese with Farah?
Hmm. A really interesting question.
I know, really stumping you guys.
Mhm.
Um, Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think it was a tough love approach that she needed. Um, I think she was going around feeling sorry for herself and, for reasons right or wrong. And she was just angry at the world, her situation, still in that kind of victim mindset. And I know when I kind of shut down like that personally, sometimes you just need to be bullied out of love into feeling better, or kind of getting out of that headspace. And she's so, I think, closed off that you needed someone different, right? You needed someone goofy who was playing around, didn't take himself too seriously, but wasn't afraid to push her into doing things she wouldn't have for the betterment of herself. So I think in terms of a partner, I think it was just what her character needed.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I agree with that. Um, do we want to compare Cassian as a partner to Reese as a partner? Because
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think Cassian is that good of a mate to Nesta.
What makes you say that?
Well, um, let's compare not Nesta, Cassian and Reese. So remember when Reese and Feyre first had their mating bond, and Cassian made that remark about, oh, she doesn't look tired, um, and Reese just goes crazy at him.
Yes.
Um, Thinking about that, like Reese is constantly saying bad things about Nesta, which I'm not saying is like unfounded, but like in terms of like from Cassian's point of view, like this is your mate or this is someone you love, and he just like lets him say it. He doesn't defend her or anything.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think about that. He doesn't go animalistic,
Yeah.
territorial over her. I do think
Mhm.
at one point, like him and Reese, I think get into like a fight or something. But I think at the end of the day, like Cassian just does whatever Reese says when
Mhm.
it comes to Nesta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, a great point, Melina. I didn't think about that. So does that lead you to believe that maybe they're not mates?
I mean, I think it's supporting evidence, but I really have no idea. I mean, we know that like some people can fake the mating bond. I mean, we know that from Throne of Glass, which if you haven't read that, then we're not going to go into that. Um, but yeah, it's just I guess it maybe there's some deeper plot line that hasn't really been picked up yet.
100%. Have you guys seen kind of along that plot line or the bait and switch? I haven't researched this, so I don't know if this is founded in reality, but I feel I saw a TikTok or a video or a reel or something somewhere where they say Cassie never says "I love you" in the book, or
Yeah.
either that or
As
Nesta doesn't say "I love you" back.
Hmm.
One of the two. And I didn't catch that. To your point, I didn't even catch that Cassian wasn't standing up to Reese on Nesta's behalf. But
Hmm.
then you saying that sparked it. I'm like, wait, I almost want to Google.
Yeah.
Did they ever say "I love you"? Like, have you guys seen that?
yeah.
I have seen that, but I haven't like checked if it's actually true, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
If it is, I
yeah.
think that further supports.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which makes me like the book more, honestly. If this entire book was a bait and switch,
Yeah,
how
seriously.
ever.
Yeah.
I do think though, um, I don't know. I feel like Cassian like does like her a lot. Think about in A Court of Frost and Starlight. He for winter solstice, he got her first edition book because he knew she liked to read. And then she got mad at him, at everyone, and then he threw the book in the river. And then for this winter solstice in Silver Flames, he got her this musical bell where he recorded all of her favorite ballads from this ball that they threw so that she could replay it back whenever
Mm.
she wanted because he knew that she loved music. So I think those moments, I understand like maybe he didn't say I love you, but I think he might be a character who doesn't have to say I love you because he shows it through his actions for her and does all these things for her.
Mm.
I personally don't think that him caring about her and doing that is an indication of um love. Not like, so I think that he definitely cares about her and there's definitely he can love her as a friend even, but I don't think that's indicative of loving her as a significant other.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
like maybe it speaks more to his character. Like we
Hmm.
knew going in he was a good person and a good brother and a good friend. And so
Hmm.
it goes, it makes sense that he would also be a good partner. I'm I'm always looking for a deeper meaning, especially in books like, series like this or genres like this where there's Easter eggs. I'm so easily swayed. You can convince me that he's in love with her and has never loved anything more, or that this is all some hoax or work of magic
Oh,
and
me too.
play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can go either way.
right, right. Could go both. She writes two from two books that go different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see it go either way. I mean, so in there's a part where they're in the prison and Lanthus is one of the death gods that is trapped there and Nesta finds the harp there. She plucks one of the strings, opens the door, and the prisoners are released. And Lanthus starts attacking Cassian. And there's a part in it where he says, based upon scent alone, I would say that you two are. And then Cassian attacks him before he can even finish what he's saying. So that indicates to the reader that he's that he smells that they are mates, unless Melina, there's something maybe Cassian didn't want her to know. I mean, at this point, she doesn't know that they're mates.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
maybe Cassian knows and doesn't want to say, or maybe he's smelling something else that Cassian knows and doesn't want him to know about, like doesn't want him saying in front of Nesta. Um, I don't know, but I feel like I do think that he loves her no matter what, and maybe there is who's to say SJM is set like we said it earlier in this podcast. She sets rules and then makes exceptions to the rules, and then sometimes she doesn't make exceptions to those rules.
Mhm.
They've been saying that there's one mate for everyone. Who's to say that there actually is one mate for Nesta?
And then
Maybe
the
there's
next
more, you
and,
know?
and then the next book in the series is a Why Choose Romance.
Okay, I want the why choose from Elaine though.
With Eris and Az. I mean, how magical would that be? I mean,
That would be cute.
oh,
But I want Gwen and Azriel to end up together. I'm not gonna lie. I think that they're so cute and it makes so much sense.
I agree. And because I want to know more about Eris in the Autumn Court, I do want. Is it Eris and Elaine or is it
That's
Lucian?
Lucian and
Lucian.
Elaine.
Okay, I always get. For some reason I get them confused. Um, but even that I think would be cool because then you still go back to the Autumn Court, right? And maybe that's the slow redemption arc for Tamlin, and you like see insight into him as a character rebuilding.
Through Lucian's point and then maybe we
Right,
get more into Eris too.
right, right.
And then we can get more about Hellion, who is his
Yeah.
father.
Yes. I mean, we should
That
just
was a crazy plot twist. I forgot we didn't talk about that last episode, but that was a crazy plot twist from the first three books.
remind me of that plot twist.
That basically Farah picked up on the fact that Lucian has similar physical traits to Hellion, and that Hellion's the one in the first three books, right? That's like friends with Reese. I'm not mixing him up with one of the other ones, right? Where he's friends with Reese, he comes to the room and then he throws a he's like trying to have a threesome with
Yeah.
Moore and Cassian, or maybe a foursome with like Moore, Cassian, and Azriel.
Hmm.
And they're sitting in, is it the dawn court or maybe the day court? And they're waiting to like have that meeting with all of them. You guys know what I'm talking about. Come
No,
on.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you for
Like
that.
the High Lords meeting.
Yeah, the High Lords
I
meeting,
think
right?
that's in the Dawn Court.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's dawn. So then Hellion is day court, I think.
I'm looking it up. High
No,
Lord.
then it might be Day Court.
It is Day Court. High Lord of the Day Court.
Okay, so he's day court, but I think they were at the dawn court. And because all of them were meeting and they were all staying in the rooms.
Mhm.
And that's where she notices that Hellion, I think maybe mentions a story about the lady of the autumn court.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I think Thera puts two and two together that like Lucian might actually be his son. That would be crazy. I would love for her to talk more about. Actually, I
Mhm.
changed my opinion. I would love the next book to be about Lucian because I would love for him to find out. I would love for him to really deep dive into his powers.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like there's so much potential with that storyline.
100%.
There's so much potential with so many of the storylines.
I know there's so many loose ends, and I just need her to start tying them up a little bit.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
or just do a whole separate series. Like she could have her writing plate filled from now until the end of time, just doing a series, like even a trilogy on each court. Please, God, please.
Mhm.
Yes. I would love for her to do. She needs some books. I think she needs to write like a trilogy prequel of like Amarantha's, like during Amarantha's reign,
Mhm.
how Amarantha came into power, and then do it from like the Winter Court's perspective.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. And
Yeah.
then you kind of get different, maybe you can jump storylines or something like I think that would be really great perspective
Yeah.
timeline. And then like obviously she could do the spin-offs and all.
Yeah.
There's so much potential.
There's so much potential. If she were to write, so outside of the prequel, because I think that's such a fantastic idea, just getting more of the lore and the politics before the Under the Mountain and Amarantha. If she were to write a trilogy next on a different court, what would be your first choice?
I would say I want her to do it like on the autumn court or winter court would be nice because I know that there's a thing between the lady of the winter court sister and more.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that little scenario playing out. So I would like that. I would also really think I would like autumn court because I feel like there's so much there with the brothers, Lucian, even spring court again.
So all of them got
Just
it.
all of them, period. Also, I want to know more. So I found out that Nesta and like all the sisters have a cousin on the continent. Who is this cousin? Is he relevant? He's relevant enough to bring up and have on the continent. I want to know who he is. What's his storyline? Where does he play into all of this?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, right. And like that's the thing. Like she doesn't bring in random information unless
Mhm.
she plans on using it. So I'm hoping she uses it. I also think sorry, I'm all over the place right now, you guys, but this coffee's really hitting me. I'm like on the go.
Maybe go back to tea. Okay.
I know, right? Maybe some chamomile tea would be so nice. Um, where am I going with this? Oh, okay. We don't talk about this now because I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I would love we need to talk about the sister's mom potentially being a witch.
Mhm.
And that's that theory because I think Nesta is a witch. That is my opinion.
I think that we should save that until after doing like Throne of Glass and like look at those parallels. Like when we're doing the comparison, I think that would be a great thing
Mm-hmm.
to mention.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
okay.
Iron clans and the whole lineage and yeah.
Okay. Well, now we're booked for the next couple of podcasts. I'm kind of excited.
Oh, we
I
have a
think that's
lot.
such an interesting thing because there's so much to Nessa. And you know what makes me think that she is more powerful than they don't know how much power she is, right? They're thinking that she's more powerful than Reese. But then to the extent that Reese supposedly
Mhm.
is supposed to be this all-powerful being, but then he has certain things that are limiting him, which I thought was interesting.
So here's why I don't think Nesta is more powerful than Reese.
Mhm.
It's because why would SJM say that he's the most powerful character in her universe if then she was going to make Nesta more powerful than him?
Yeah.
I get that, but at the same time, Nesta was the one that saved him, his wife, and his child, and he couldn't do anything to save them. He couldn't even he couldn't even harness the dead trove. Only Nesta could.
Yeah, but I don't think that speaks to her absolute power. I think it speaks to her like specialized power, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I agree. That's what I was going to say. Is I think their power is just different. So
Hmm.
I was looking up. I keep looking off to the side because I have that blog open, Alex, and you can go into each character. And
Oh,
the list of Reese's powers is long, right? We know he's so powerful. He has darkness. He has diamati abilities. He can shapeshift. And I think just the level of power he has in different areas is what makes him powerful. But to Melina's point, there are some like he can't control fire, right? Like the autumn court can, or like water, like some, whatever. So I think they're just different, and she can manipulate cauldron linked things because of the cauldron. That just means that her power is different, still powerful, but not more powerful. And she lost it, right? Like at the end too, it's kind of
yeah.
she lost it.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Reese secretly has powers from the other courts now that they revived him back from life, just like
I
their
hope so.
Oh,
kernels of their power?
I hope so. I
I
would love that little like, oh, I think that would be great.
right.
I would love for that to come into play
Hmm.
A
at
hundred.
some point.
Well, it says too on this blog that one of his powers is shape shifting, which is what traditionally, right, a spring court power.
You're right.
I mean, what I want to know is when Nyx grows up, is I need the funny, like, romance rom-commy version of after they have Nyx, and it's like him popping in and out of existence as a toddler, like causing terror.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly. I feel like I love this because you can get so many different spin-offs from
Mhm.
this world alone. I mean, she could do it for any of her series.
Right.
Man, there's just so much potential. And I just feel like I don't want to say she bit off more than she can chew, but I think the storyline has gotten so complex now with so many different characters, so many loose ends that, like we said, like she can go on and on and on, but she can take it so many different ways. And I think I don't want to predict this, and I don't want to, I want to be wrong. I have a feeling I'm not going to like the way the whole storyline ends.
Yeah, me too.
And that's what my biggest fear is.
That it's going to be very underwhelming because we've waited this long and we've speculated on it so much.
Yes.
The actual outcome is going to be like a letdown.
Right.
Yeah. And
What
it's
would be worse, you think? Never getting the ending or getting it and it being bad?
Oh,
It's
that's
like
difficult.
a worse would you rather, right?
Yeah.
ugh, that's so true. I don't know. I think I would rather I don't know, you guys. This
I'd
is
rather the letdown.
Right. Yeah. I
Then at
want to know
least,
how it ends.
yeah, at least then there's an ending. And even if I don't like it, I can be like, oh, this is how it ends. So that's,
Right.
yeah.
concluded. There's no more speculating.
Right. Right.
I know.
Right.
I just feel like we're gonna find so many plot holes because now she's like taking her series to like a whole different level by incorporating all of them.
Mhm.
I think she's just taking on more than she can like she's taking on more than she can handle. And I think there's going to be a lot of plot holes from it because Throne of Glass, for her to now start incorporating Throne of Glass and Crescent City and those crossovers and all these different aspects to it and these different worlds, right? And how they're going to mix together and seeing how that storyline ends with ACOTAR and even Crescent City, I think there's going to be plot holes. And I'm terrified that her next book, let alone the whole series, but like her next book is going to be like the last book in the Crescent City series, a disappointment.
But do you think, I mean, and I haven't read Crescent City yet, so I know there's an Easter egg in book 3, but there's an Easter egg, right, in Throne of Glass and the crossover between ACOTAR. Do you think she's like, maybe she's not building this complex crossover, interconnected universe, and maybe it's just a fun callback, right? Like it's like a, hey, they're here, or hey, they're there. And again, if you can't weigh in without spoiling Crescent City, I'll leave and block my ears and you can tell them back. But
I let's save this for another podcast. And Amanda, you're gonna have to read Crescent City so we can really talk about this.
I just got the 3rd book, special edition. Now I just have to, I guess, read all 3.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do it and just read it. And then we can talk about it because I think it really we could really talk really in depth about it and about a lot.
There's so much information there.
Yes. And this is why I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm like, okay, we need to start having like maybe like a field guide or something and explaining
Mm.
the characters, their powers, the things. And like it could even be, I was thinking about this the other day because we kind of talked about this in the last episode. What if it was per section of the book? Crescent Silver Flames is broken into 4 different parts or 5 different parts. And for each part, maybe just do like this is what you learn in the from last part. Or this is what you know going into it, and then this is what you know going out of it. Like that way, you're not spoiling anything by putting it in the appendix, but at least you're giving the reader a brief overview. Okay, let me quickly look back. What do I know about this character?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so hard to keep track, especially with like in or in Silver Flames when she's talking about the Dagon and the death gods and all these different things that again start kind of playing into like they talk about the other worlds and things like that. And I think if she's going down the route that I think she's going on, she has to start somehow keeping everything straight for everyone and maybe having like an appendix or something because it's going to start getting really confusing for readers.
Mm-hmm.
And Amanda, like I know I'm kind of spoiling a little bit of Crescent City right now,
Oh,
but
you're good.
you need to read it and then you'll understand where I'm coming from on this. I think it's getting way more complicated than like just Fourth Wing's complicated.
Okay.
No, it's so much more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because Fourth Wing is only from, for the most part, is only from Violet's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's
Now,
not really a spoiler to say that Crescent City is from multiple characters' perspectives.
Yeah. I'm thinking now. But do you guys feel, and again, maybe I'll remove Crescent City from the conversation because I haven't read it and not to back you guys into a corner. But I feel like in Throne of Glass, you got such a clear mythology, like the gods, right?
yeah.
Do you feel like we've gotten that in ACOTAR?
I
Going
don't think
back
they
to
talk about it enough. Like I don't think they allude to gods, they allude to the high priestesses and things like that. Oh, go ahead, Melina.
No, I was thinking about if I need to save this for like the crossover episode.
I
Can
know.
I close my ears and then you could just
No, because I'm
No,
sure
no,
like
no, it's just ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, but
oh
like
oh oh oh
I saw someone make a TikTok at on like the beginning. You know, Aelin like erased the gods from existence. Um, and then in the beginning of ACOTAR, Farah, there's some mention of like no one knows who the gods are.
mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of like parallel. Like, is that where it came from, or is there something else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, let's talk about the fact that the harp, the 26th string, which is the last string on the harp, is time itself.
Mm.
So who's to say that the other worlds aren't just part of time?
Yeah.
This is getting too complicated for me.
Amanda, we need you to read Crescent City. We need to come back to this conversation because we could go on. I could literally talk about this all so much more.
Mm.
I would love to get your thoughts on it. And I know Melina would love, like, I want to get your thoughts on it, but we can't talk about it without spoiling. And
I
there's
know.
no fun in that. So,
No, I know, I know. Listen, I'll just add this to the list of reasons why I should become a housewife and quit my job. I'm really racking up the reasons. So no, I'll have to read it. I know.
it's gonna be worth it, my friend. It's this is not a spoiler. It's a first book's really good. It's
Mm.
a little hard to get through in the other two books, but you just need to power through. And
Yeah.
they're good. They could be shorter.
I mean,
I didn't hate them. I liked them. I just didn't love them compared to her other series.
yeah. And now we've come full circle back to Silver Flames because that's how I felt about it. It was 200 pages too long. I
Yes.
liked it because I like the world, I like the series, I like revisiting the characters, but it doesn't have the same grab that the first three do.
I thought it was probably more like 500 pages too long.
Or that, or that. I was being kind, but you're right.
Oh, you guys. I
Is it?
It is. I have my book in front of me. Okay, let's see. 1 second, please.
I think it's like 900 something, right?
It's
No.
751.
Oh,
Seven.
really?
Oh, I have 757.
Yeah, well, I think it's 757 with the acknowledgments. So like the last page of the acknowledgments is 750.
Oh, no, you're right. I do have the acknowledgments.
It felt longer though, to your point, Alina, like in my mind until I picked it up right now from 2 years ago when I read it, in my mind it was 900 pages.
Yeah.
Because that's what
Yeah.
it felt like. It was so long.
Yes, it was. It was so long. But now, like these, like I feel like other series are just as long. But again, I like they were a little bit more plot driven than
Mhm.
this one. I didn't think it was very plot driven.
Yeah, and Melina, you're gonna hate this. That's how I feel about Fourth Wing. I feel it's 200 pages too long every time. Like
Oh,
it's just, I know. I'm sorry. This
My
is.
heart is breaking.
I'll just slowly kind of like fall out of frame. I'll just like that meme of Homer just backing into the bush.
Yeah.
I know I'm an island on my own. Just like last week, Alex hated Reese, and we were like, I were like, get out. But
No.
yeah,
I didn't hate him. I just
you
don't.
were there.
I recognize his red flags. Okay.
You were,
Can
and
we talk about how he's different in like the first three books versus Silver Flame?
Yes, let's get into Reese because I have strong opinions on
Great.
this one as well.
Great.
quick, where's my pitchfork?
And Amanda, we'll get to the Fourth Wing hate like later, but you're gonna have to reread that because it has my heart.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have them right here. I can.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, so I think we need to talk about Reese because I feel like he has changed. Melina, you touched on this. He's changed from books 1 through 3 to Silver Flames. He's a very different person. Personally, I think we're getting a different perspective. So maybe he was the same person the whole time. And now we're just seeing Nesta's perspective, who isn't his mate, isn't in love with him. And it kind of just is who he is. But I have some really strong feelings. I personally don't love him in this book at all.
I actually want to add to that. So obviously we're seeing him from a different perspective. Nesta really doesn't like him, but I don't think that indicates that that's who he truly is either, because they're both biased. Feyre and Nesta are both biased in one direction. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard to justify Reese and like what he's doing because we're not hearing it from someone who loves him, but like we're hearing it from someone who actively hates him.
Mhm.
And that also plays a part in how he's going to be perceived. Um, so I think it's really hard to say, like, is he really this worst character, or is it just perspective, or whatever? Because we don't have other characters' POVs for it.
Mhm.
And that's really important in interpreting his actions.
Yep. I never thought about it like that, but I 100% agree. I think it's just a facet to the character.
Mhm.
And to Alex's point, he's probably just a complex character, right? And you're just seeing it from different perspectives. But I think I agree with you, Melina. I don't think he's like an all good or all bad. I think he's in the gray, but then Feyre and Nesta are two ends of the spectrum, and so you're just seeing it the same action in a different light, which makes it interesting. I think like
Yeah.
seeing how that character behaves through another person's POV is fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I would like, again, if we get another character who's not part of the inner circle as the next book, I think it'll be interesting to see their point of view on Reese
Mm.
and kind of, well, I think will help dictate like our feelings, at least my feelings about him. I just have an issue with him because he hid the whole birth, like hid the fact that Pharaoh was going to die in childbirth along with their child from her and hid it for so long and had everyone else told everyone else but her. I think that's messed up.
Let's talk about how that's so out of character for him, though,
Mm-hmm.
and how I feel like it was convenient for Silver Flame so that Nesta could have another reason to hate him and just to move the plot along.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I agree. It's just another kind of knock in his con column.
Hmm.
I also think that if you're coming at it from Risa's perspective, you have a wife, right, for lack of a better term, who's pregnant, who's already going through a lot, not feeling the best. And it's like, okay, I don't want to burden her, then she also might die, but I'm going to confide in my friends and her family who care about her just to get some perspective because his head isn't in a good place either. And maybe, he's super powerful, she's powerful, she's been through so much. Maybe in his head it's, hey, she'll overcome it. She's already overcome other things and she's strong, she's different, she'll figure it out. And that ended up happening, but not because of her or him, but because of Nesta.
Yeah, I think you're right, Melina. I think it did drive the plot. I think it was a convenient
Mm-hmm.
to drive the plot. I just I just didn't like that he told everyone. And then it had to be Nesta the one to tell Farah. And everyone got mad at Nesta about it. And it was like, yes, I can understand she said it in a moment of anger, but at the same time, she shouldn't have to be the one to be truthful about such a serious situation. It should have been Reese from the beginning to go to Farah and give her what's happening to her own body.
Hmm.
And then they discuss it as a family, and then they can go and talk to their friends. I think the situation was handled so poorly.
Hmm. But again, I think it was just the convenience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you look at the rest of the series and even what other characters say about Reese, like think about what Jurian says and how he's like, yeah, you're kind of when Farrah's at the spring court, he's like, yeah, I don't remember Reese being this horrible person. I remember him being like a really good guy. So like what you're saying just, it doesn't add up. Um, and that's kind of just like another hint of his character from someone who didn't love him, but like, was around him, who knew who he was just as a person. And for me, that point of view actually weighs really heavily and like reaffirming that like he's not a bad person. And yeah, he's morally gray because he's a morally gray character. I mean, they're always going to have like good and bad things, but I think that he's just it's kind of diluted by Nesta's hatred.
Mhm. I agree 100%. It's so colored through her lens in this
Hmm.
book, and it's so incongruous with the rest of the series. So it speaks to that probably being more the case rather than he's not a good guy. And it's just been hidden this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I still am angry at him about it. I
Well,
don't.
you're a resident Reese hater.
I
So,
am not a Reese. I love Reese. I just have an issue with the fact that he doesn't tell Farrah about such a big thing. And that always bothered me. But again, Melina, what you said, it makes sense that it's just a convenience in the
Hmm.
plot. And I feel like we talked about this. That's kind of the whole book itself is a lot of the things in the plot are just out of convenience. And
yeah.
it,
Yeah,
none of it
like
really.
SJM was like, how can I format this just to fit my agenda, even if it doesn't fit the 3 books of character building I've already done?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
It's
this is a
easy
bridge
plot.
book. Yeah, I feel like this might be a bridge book between the first three into her, the next books that are coming.
Hmm.
But I don't, I don't know. I love Reese, but at the same time, he's just got some issues, man. You know,
Honestly, for me, Reese and Silver Flame just does not exist.
Yeah. He's just a fly on the
just
wall.
wiped from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I'm not going to change how I feel about him based on Nesta's point of view.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Who I
A
already
character
don't.
that honestly I don't even care about. So,
Right. Who I
Yeah.
already dislike.
yeah.
I mean, what did you guys think about them forcing Nesta to basically like move into the House of Wind and start training?
I think
They forced her to do it. She didn't want to. And I get why they did it, but she's a grown adult. Why did they
I
feel
think
like that?
it was tough love, and that's exactly what she needed. Like,
Mhm.
I know I've seen it compared to when Feyre was locked in the house in Tamlin's Manor, but I don't see it like that at all because first of all, she had another option, and second of all, she had an escape. Just because she wasn't physically capable of going down those stairs to get out doesn't mean that she couldn't get out. And
Mhm.
like she wasn't locked there,
Mhm.
but she was also engaging in a lot of really harmful behaviors.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying I agree with Farrah just thinking about like, oh, how Nesta is acting like this and it's looking bad on me, but like they do have to think about that because they're like, I guess what you would say is like the president of this um like country, whatever, and kind of
Mhm.
into like our world.
Mhm.
And it matters what their people think of them and how they can control, or not control, but like how those around them act. And is that a direct indication of their ability to like lead, you know?
Mhm. 100%. It's indicative of them policing or like setting up guidelines for the safety of the many.
Hmm.
I agree. It's a bit of tough love. It's almost like an intervention in a way for her. And to your point, it's not like she was physically locked like Favor was in the spring court. She had the ability to get out, but she was almost her own prisoner first, like in her mind, because she was like, screw this. And then physically, but giving her the tools to be able to get herself out, which I think she would respect more than having Cassian break her out, right? I think she would have continued that behavior, but it empowered her to empower herself to like break that cycle.
Do
Hmm.
you think this was another example of Farah playing into that role that she kind of always was of like the mother taking care of her family? But at the end of the day, this is her version of take, even though they're all more than capable. Reese is financially taking care of the whole family, but this is an example of Farah just not really relenting that caretaker role for her whole family.
Hmm. Yeah.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I think it's a hard mentality to switch out of when you've taken care of your siblings or your family or your friends for so long. It's so ingrained at such a young age. Of course, it would be hard, especially now that she has the means to actually care for her sisters. It's going to take way more than a book's worth of time to get her out of that habit.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Farrah was too forgiving of Nesta in this book?
I think so.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
that
What do
way
you think?
it ended was Nesta saves them. Everyone lives happily ever after. They go to their dad's grave together, the three of them.
I don't know if it's necessarily forgiving. I think it's just like a recognition of what's happened. You've done good since then, so I'm just going to let the past be the past. I don't know if that always
Mhm.
equates to forgiveness.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and they didn't expand on it enough to be like she's forgiven. It's more just like, hey, that was traumatic for everyone. We're just going to shut this chapter and let it lie.
Yeah, I get that. I just, I make it again. I'm interested to see where the next book goes.
Hmm.
Yes, and kind of elaborate more on the relationship dynamics between
Hmm.
all of them.
And
Um, but that being said, I think that, with the sisters, I think Elaine also had a little bit more personality in this book. I think she started to come through. She wanted to help with the dead trove, um, to the point where she was just like, don't talk, like, when you guys are ready for my help, like, let me know, sort of thing. Like, she wanted to help. Nesta said, no, I'm not letting you help. And again, they're trying to put Elaine in this box. And I think Elaine is finally at the point where she's trying to be like, hey, I have personality now. Like, I can help. I want to help. I think she might have like not a redemption arc because she didn't really do anything wrong. I just don't think she did anything right either. She was kind of just there. And I think now we're starting to see that she's really pushing forward as a character and starting to grow. And I think that started to come to fruition in this
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
yeah, I don't think she needed a redemption arc. Certainly a character arc for the wet mop that she was in the first four. I just like, I think I need to go back and reread Silver Flame. She doesn't even stick out in this book in my mind. Like she's literally just there. She's like a flat stamp
Yeah.
they bring around. Like they're just like, there's Elaine, there she is. I don't know, like she needs her own book at some point to really really bring that character full circle because again she just SJ Maas did such a good job of making the two sisters so unlikable in the first few books. It's just like okay. Elaine staring off into space seeing a vision, sure.
Oh my God.
Sorry. Like,
I think that Tamlin and Elaine would be perfect for each other. I think, in my opinion,
they both suck.
no. Okay, baby, but I think Tamlin wants someone to take care of, and Elaine wants someone to take care of.
Take care of, yeah, they're
I think
perfect.
they would have been perfect. So I think, honestly, what I would love to see is in the next book, it's a redemption arc for both of them, or a character arc for both of them,
Mm-hmm.
Redemption and character.
right?
Because
And it's
no,
kind of like
Elaine was not there.
intermixing thing where they kind of help each other along. And
Mhm.
I know we talked about that there is a theory going around that Tamlin is actually Elaine's mate and not Lucian, and Lucian just said it as a way to protect Tamlin.
Mhm.
Um, what do you guys think about that?
That's a whole like I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with that. I think there's so many like holes in that theory, but like I really like it.
Yeah, I'm 100% in alignment. I think that a horse is a horse. Like when you see stripes, that whole
Mhm.
phrase. So I feel like it's probably just she is Lucian's mate, but it would be so interesting if he did it to cover for Tamlin. And I think I like that complexity of Elaine and Tamlin more than Lucian and Elaine.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping for it. I have doubts. I'm not going to set my expectations too high because I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be very interesting for sure. But that being said, who do you think deserves the next book?
I mean, I love an Asriel just to round out the three, just because he's the most interesting of the three brothers, Illyrian brothers to me. I think he's the most kind of secluded, where we got insight into Reese. He's the leader, he has this role to fill. Cassian's just this big ball of energy, and he's like very much an open book. And as is his direct um, opposite. And I think it would just be interesting to get some of that inner politics of the Night Court if we're staying there.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. Maybe she's just waiting to like
To get a good idea.
I'm thinking she's waiting until she finishes the series so she can release like book after book after book.
I hope so. I don't think maybe she's just in a bit of a slump. And but what do you guys think for the next book? Who do you want it to be?
Honestly, I I would love for it to be Azrael, but actually I think that'd be interesting. If we saw it from Azrael's point of view, being the shadow singer, I think we can get other characters' points of view as well
Mhm.
from through him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And their secrets, right? And understanding the inner politics and inner workings of the courts, I think.
And get more understanding about more because I feel like she is being really secretive lately.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
think
not,
that's interesting.
yeah. What about you,
Well,
Emily?
I'm gonna go in a different direction. I really want to see a book from Tamlin's point of view.
Mm, I get that. Yeah, I would love to see it from his point of view too. There's
Mhm.
just so many options you could go down.
Yeah.
Small.
Then I'm also thinking like the um Lucian's dad and also Lucian's mom, his
Mm-hmm.
siblings, um, the Lord of the Winter Court,
Mm-hmm.
and his mate, wife, whatever, um, the son and that court, Miriam and Dracan. I mean, there's so many,
Yeah.
so many. I don't know.
It's a good problem to have. I mean, she's certainly
Mhm.
hurting for directions, which I think makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and gives her a bit of freedom with the plotting too, because you could, it's like Throne of Glass, you could, or it's not Throne of Glass, Game of Thrones. You could take it, there's so many different families to follow, so many different countries or areas and like mythologies to align with.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
not options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But who knows? We shall see. We'll have to wait for God knows how long until we can find out what
Yeah.
happens in this next book. Um, and maybe the whole series, who knows? It might honestly be like another 10 years before we
Right.
get the
Yeah.
series, or it
We're
might
still
just never
hoping
end.
for an announcement soon.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I know. That's what they've been saying since like God knows how long. I know everyone thought it was going to be coming in May and then like June. Still nothing.
Yep.
It's very disappointing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll wait and see. So if you guys like this episode, please, please, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If there's a specific book or topic you guys want us to talk to or dive into, please just DM us on Instagram or TikTok, or even leave a comment here. We're super, super interested to see what you guys think about our opinions, if you agree, disagree, have other hot takes that maybe we didn't cover. But that being said, that is our wrap up on ACOTAR until the next book comes out. Next week, we're going to do a nice little palette cleanse. We're going to go into a thriller. We will let you guys know on our social medias what book we'll be covering. But other than that, you guys should stay tuned for sure.
If you have any recommendations before we pick it, definitely let us know. Um, and other than that, thanks for brewing with us today.
Until next time, book besties.
See you guys. Thank you.